Good afternoon to everyone for joining us. It is an honor for me to welcome you to the very first edition of Publish and Prosper. This is basically from the desk of Academia Cafe Elites, and we are happy to welcome you on board this afternoon. And we want to believe that this will be a session that will help you make that revolutionary change and transformation that you have been looking for. We have designed it to ensure that it is interactive. It is not just full of theory. We want to ensure that there are actionable insights that being given out by our panelists this afternoon. And I hope that you are going to leave here impacted, not just by being informed, but being empowered and equipped with the perspective, the mindset, and the tools that can help you redefine the course of your research. So we like I posted earlier, we like to share just a summary of a story of a PhD student that I met with a few years back. Now, this happened 3 years ago after I've done facilitating a physical master class. A PhD student waited behind to speak with me. But here's the thing. Before she even started talking, I could see in her eyes a story that even the mouth could not tell of. She said something that stuck with me till today. She said she was slowly burning out, not for lack of intellect, but for lack of true support. And that moment stuck with me till today. The seed for something deeper, and that seed germinated, and today we are published and prosper. So that I was telling us about a story of the lady that I met after a physical master class that I had sometimes 3 years ago, how devastating the situation was for her. She felt so lonely and confessed that yes, she knew that it's going to be a tough ride, but she never knew that it will feel that lonely. And I know we could relate with what that means to feel lonely when you are in the midst of a crowd. If we ask many people of their doctoral journey, you will begin to hear different kind of story that touch the art, and which I believe it's not supposed to be so. So today we are going to be taking it from the perspective of approaching it with actionable insights. We want to be looking at it that with all that happens during the doctoral research, during the doctoral journey for both the supervisor and the postgraduate student, even the MSc master student, we want to begin to understand that there is a human being behind that. And that human being is a being that has feeling, is a being that has family, is a being that has future, is a being that has goals, is a being that it's out of inspiration that he came in for the program. So we want to see how can we begin to look at, rather than looking at going into the aspect of looking at it publish or perish. Nobody is going to perish here. Why can't we focus on publish or prosper? Why can't we focus on visibility and being valuable? Why can't we focus on the impact the journey can help us make. Actually, academia is for contribution to knowledge, making impact in the larger society. That is the chief goal of academia. So that is what we want to be looking at today. So permit me to once again introduce the session for Publish and Prosper. This is a platform for raw, empowering, transformative, actionable conversation for academics, researchers, postgraduate students, and academic mentors. And today we are here to have the real talk that really happens in academic meetings and gathering. We talk about burnout, imposter syndrome, shifting expectation. We talk about burnout, imposter syndrome, shifting expectation, and all other things that we overlook and what we all go through or went through during the doctoral journey. So that is what we want to be looking, how we can be shifting the expectation from seeing it as a battle to begin to focus on the beauty and the breakthrough. How we can begin to have a shift from who sent you for PhD program. You think it's easy to begin to focus on what impact can we help or assist or support this person on a doctoral journey to make for the betterment of the society. So that is why we are here today. And I want you to know that whether you are a postgraduate student or academic researcher or a mentor or a research mentor, I want you to understand that you are not alone. This episode is a way of we telling you that you are not alone. And for every committed individual on this call who stay true, which I pray that the network will allow each and every one of us, for every committee, for the time you spend here, the effort and the data bundle you spend here, I want to assure you that you are going to be rewarded with information that will define your research processes and put you on a global recognition and relevance. And also, I promise you access to a resource material that will change your research journey for life. The access will only be given to, at the close of this session. And once again, I welcome you to the doctoral journey, the beauty, the battles, and the breakthrough. And our focus today is on the core realities of doctoral journey and academic mentoring. And we will be exploring what no institution handbook prepares you for. We are going to be exploring how to choose or refine your topic and your proposal without losing your mind, how to navigate supervisor relationship without fear or resentment. We are also going to be exploring how to deal with publication pressure, rejection, and exhaustion, and also looking at how to manage time, protect your peace, and still make process. And mental health is real. That, and most importantly, we are going to be looking at how to find your people, your support in the journey that feels so lonely, how to thrive and not just survive. So I am Dr. Tom Ido, a faculty member at Modibo Adama University, Yola, and I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. And joining me, we have three seasoned academic icons: a principal research officer from a research institute, which is an excellent mind who has just walked the path and are here to share is truth. And two respected professors, experienced mentors who understand the system and are committed to helping the next generation navigate it better. Their preparedness for today, authentically and generously, is something I deeply appreciate. And before we get into the session proper, I want us to take note of this following thing, that this is no performance zone. We are not here to impress or grade anybody. We are here for real talk, open conversation, and to walk away not just informed, but empowered. Whether you are a master student navigating your first year or a PhD candidate in the thick of it, or a superior committed, or you are a supervisor, which your goal is to ensure that your students come out with flying color. I welcome you all. And I want you to take a breath, grab a notepad, and settle in. But ensure that you engage, you take notes, ask questions when the floor is open for questions, and most importantly, be present. The countdown is over. We are live now. And this is the beginning of something much bigger than just this single event. So on behalf of the Academia Cafe Elites community, I welcome you to Publish and Prosper. We talk bold insights. Thank you all for being here. I want to believe that I'm still live. Okay. Now, let's begin by getting to know our esteemed panelists who joining have been both hard won and hope giving. Okay, for our panelists, we are going to first of all go through an introduction section from our panelists before we go into the section proper. And each of the panelists will briefly introduce themselves by sharing their name, academic field, and institution. And also, they will share one word or phrase that defines their PhD experience, and also one surprising insight they discover during their PhD journey. So we will start with Dr. Bright. I want to believe that Dr. Bright is in the room. Then we will move on to Professor Asim, Alice Asim, and then Professor Maureen Oku. Dr. Bright, you have about 3 minutes to tell us your name, academic field, and institution, one word or phrase that defines your PhD experience, one surprising insight that you discover in your PhD experience. So, Dr. Bright, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me very well.
You're welcome.
Well, yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Okay. My name is Dr. Bright Osaobo Erume Bibi. I am presently working with the Nigeria Institute for Oil Palm Research, Benin City, Edo State. I am an agricultural economist by profession. By the special grace of God, I bagged my PhD not too long from Federal University of Technology, Akure, as FUTA. And one very funny thing, my PhD is very recent. One very defining phrase about that captured my PhD experience is that my PhD journey, I see it as a journey that was polished by fire. I want to just really give a little insight because I had a supervisor that was, though very good, but also very harsh and tough. I saw his intellectual capacity because during the I just began my program. That was when he started his that was when he delivered his inaugural lecture. So I saw the way he presented his inaugural lecture. He kept telling me that I could do better than him. So that's how that particular phrase came about, polished by fire. So the fire there was my challenges and pressure that I was, that was meant to go throughout the program. But it was a nice one because at the end of the day, it was indeed a very good one to behold. But one surprising thing that I will say about the program is that PhD is indeed a journey that is more patience than brilliance. So I will tell you that it is not just all about what you know, but one thing is that for ability for you to be patient, because you're going to walk through this high for a longer time. So sometimes when you now begin to now do a deeper research work, you now find out that you know very little. So because of that, that patience that you now tend to use to study along the line will now make your brilliance come out at the end of the day. So that is what one surprising that I learned during my own program was that it is more patience than brilliance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. It is more of patience than brilliance. So, Professor Alice Asim, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Well, my slide is there speaking about me briefly, but if you want to know more, eventually you'll see, I'll drop my link on the WhatsApp group so you can read about me. But for today, as you have seen, I'm from University of Calabar, and my background is educational evaluation. I've been a professor since 2011, so you can do the arithmetic. And wow. I think I have taught all through levels at the tertiary education level. I've taught and supervised undergraduate students, and now I'm focusing so much on PG students, masters and PhD. And from my background as an educational evaluator, our business is looking at education sector, from the policy to the curriculum to learning, teaching, and other things that happen, and then trying to solve a particular problem. So that's briefly about what I do, and I'm passionate so much about data analytics. Now, the defining word or phrase I'll give about PhD, I'm not just a supervisor or mentor. I've passed through that too. I did my PhD studies in University of Ibadan. And the first thing you see when you go to University of Ibadan, student population moves in a particular direction, and you wonder, where are they all going? And that's to the Kennedy K Library. If you're a student there and you don't focus on the library, it means you don't know what took you to UI. So that's a bit about my background. But for the PhD experience for me first as a student was I discovered the first thing, patience, like the first speaker said, humility, and then determination. Your determination must be laser focused. You must know what took you to what you're doing and why you're doing it. Because it's just like somebody sailing and you're the captain. If you take your eye off your direction, I'm telling you that you're going to sink. And that's why sometimes people drop out of the programs, because they forget that ab initio, what took them into the program was for them to earn that degree. And so they tend to take their eyes off that and look at so many other things happening. The supervisor is this, the supervisor is not that, the system is doing this, so many other things. And if you do that and fail to have the required patience, and you fail to have the required humility and determination, you will not succeed. But for me, one surprising thing I discovered while doing my PhD is this. With the right mindset, you can succeed. You can learn much by working with a renowned academic. I want to tell you one thing. As a student, the first concern is, oh, I do not want to be supervised by this person. Am I communicating?
You are communicating.
And some people will say, we had all been students, who say, no, this professor is always so busy, he will not have time for me, he will do this and that. But one thing I discovered, that by working with certain renowned academics, you are going to achieve beyond your PhD. You achieve not just paper qualification, you achieve certain things in terms of your character. You achieve certain things in terms of the relationship and connections that you can build. And so, like I tell people, they say you are today an educational consultant, you go around everywhere. I said I started making money as a consultant right from when I was a PhD student because of the person that supervised me and because of that determination to learn and be able to listen. When we get to where we talk about supervisor, supervisee relationship, I think I will say more. But for now, let everybody on this call that is a student understand this. If you're going for a PhD, you need good quantity, good dose of patience. You must be humble enough, because if you are not humble, you will not learn. If you are not humble, there are many things that will escape you. If you're not humble, working with somebody you know has already told that part and has succeeded, and then being determined, you may never arrive at what you want. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. You must be patient. You must have laser focus, determination, and a larger amount of dose of humility. And the right mindset is key. That will help you to build the right character, right relationship, and right connection. These are the points from Professor Ali. And another word, another attitude, another quality that is coming up again is patience. Patience. Now we are going to be moving over to Professor Maureen Oku. Professor Maureen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes,
Good afternoon,
I can hear
Prof.
you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Thank you. I thank you for having me on the panel. So glad to be here. So I am Professor Maureen Oku. I'm a professor in the University of. I am the sub-dean of the College of Natural and Applied Sciences and the HOD of the Department of Biological Sciences and Microbiology, by the grace of God. So talking about one defining word of praise for my PhD experience. One defining phrase is that it worth the trouble. When I started my PhD, I told myself in 3-4 years' time, I'll be done with the program. But surprisingly, it did not work out that way. It extended to 6 years. And then
Wow.
along the line, I discovered a lot of things. And one of it is that, number one, is it expanded my resilience. It also boosted my self-confidence and also my academic horizon. So, and one thing I want to leave with every PhD student is that there is a long gap or a long middle between the stage where you started your PhD. At that stage when you start your PhD, you'll be so excited, motivated, full of life. And again, there is also a period when you have finished your PhD. Then you'll be so happy with yourself. So between the period when you started and the period when you actually finish your PhD, there is a very long middle. And at that long middle, it will take resilience. It will also boost your self-confidence. Because like the other two panelists have said, is a period whereby you have a lot of discouragement, you have problems with your supervisors, maybe you are also having challenges like funding. And these are the period, the long middle is a period whereby God is building you up. So you should see it as your PhD is not just to build up your thesis, to have an excellent thesis, is also to build you up as a human being. You discover that if you are able to follow them, if you are able to manage that middle long period, you will turn out a very better person. And I have this word for everyone that is into PhD. At that middle stage, it did one thing for me. Number one, it helped me to read widely. Number two, it also helped me to think more deeply. Then number three, it helped me to, I said for
Yes.
every PhD student, I
I
want to
can.
just share this. I'm summarizing my
Okay, ma'am.
experience by saying that number one, PhD have helped me to read widely, broadly. Then
Okay.
number two, it also have helped me to think deeply on what to do. I end up having a very good thesis. Then number three, it has also helped me to write boldly with confidence. So PhD helps you to develop self-confidence.
Thank you
Resilience.
very
Thank
much,
you.
ma. Thank you, Prof. We are very grateful. Mary Anari, you are raising up your hand. Please, you can take note of what you want to say. Because of our time, we will give our space to get back to what maybe question or suggestion you want to make. Thank you very much. And Prof said resilience, and it helps you build and boost your confidence. And it's that written, it helps you to read widely. I've heard before that readers are leaders. So when you read widely, you become a wider perspective leader. And it helps you in critical thinking, and it helps you to write with confidence. I can bet it with you. Since I started my master, I've been trying to write a book or two. I will write it, go through it, dump it again, trash it. I trashed that same book 3 times. But after my PhD, I was from that period to this period, I've been able to write 3 published non-academic book, and one even won an award of S Media Award as the best #1 self-help books in Africa. So PhD is, for me, personal development. That is how I see it. Is a journey of personal development. There was a time that I make a post and I make some assertion that when you finish your PhD, I've listed 5 things that if you cannot do those 5 things, then you might need to go and collect another PhD form and start all over again. All what that boils down to is it builds your confidence, your patience, your resilience, and your determination for whatever it is that you want to achieve in life. So thank you to all our panelists. And at this junction, we are going to be entering into a very heartfelt part of today's conversation, what I wish I knew before starting my PhD. That is why I said a very heartfelt part of this conversation. What are your wishes? What I wish I knew. This is where we want to unveil the woman behind the research, and we want to make it visible. So each panelist will share on these 3 points one joyful or fulfilling moment from their journey, one painful, overwhelming moment, and one lesson for new postgraduate students that are on this conversation today. So please, I want each panelist to be free. Feel free to share in a story format. Let's make it a storytelling format, and you have 3 to 5 minutes each to do that. So let's start with Professor Maureen. Professor Maureen, one joyful, fulfilling moment, one
Yes,
painful, overwhelming moment, and one lesson for new postgraduate students. You can help us make it in a storytelling format.
Talking about one joyful, fulfilling moment before starting my PhD. Before my PhD, I had an issue with that once I start, I will discover that that will not become an issue. And when I actually started, I'm coming from nowhere. That's why determination is very important. Determination is very important whenever we have a task we want to carry out. Because once you do your task before the Lord, you pray very hard about it, God will see you through one way or the other. So I was very glad that before I started my PhD, I had the fund to start. And then secondly, what made me very happy before I started my PhD was the issue of developing my PhD proposal. Already I have a topic in mind, but the topic, how do I narrow it down? So that was an issue, because I saw myself as if I was standing before a vast sea, and I have a net. I don't know where to cast the net. That was the way I saw it. But with prayer and God guiding me, I was able to narrow it down to a doable research. I was able to narrow research that have a problem to solve. So one other thing was that when I went through a lot of literature, I could see the gaps that we are not filled. So I had to choose from one of it, and that solved the whole issue. That was that was a very happy moment for me when I was able to do that. Then moment that was during my PhD. During my PhD, because I know I'm into science. It takes me, I go to the lab every day, spend so much time in the lab. And because of that, then my children are still very young. I have to look for a word so that when I'm not available, yes, the painful, I went to the lab, I came late from the lab, and when I came back home, I discovered that my word was nowhere to be found. And the young children were left. God has stolen my phone, left the children, and I've come back to our house. So it was later on that I had to look for, and that experience was, I had to put myself together again. It took me, that period was quite painful and overwhelming. Then the lesson I would give to a new postgraduate student, like I mentioned earlier on, there is the day you started your PhD, you'll be full of excitement, and also the period in which you are finishing your program. So that's what that long major is also to develop yourself. During PhD, you might have challenges with your supervisor. Now, during PhD, you might discover that you are having one challenge or the other. But that period is a period for you to develop resilience. So a lot of things happen during that middle period. One thing that makes you a better person. And also, PhD is not a solo race. It is not a solo race. It is a period whereby you develop and value good company, because you will need them. When you are down, you need a good company. You need around you. just talk people to encourage you. So remember this, PhD is not a solo race. Get good company, people to encourage you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. PhD is not a solo race. You need a good company to help you walk through it and thrive. So, Dr. Bright, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me very well.
We can hear you very well.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Well, my own case was that, let me speak from experience. My own case, I moved to university where, a different university, different from the one where I had my first degree and my master's degree. So that was Futa, but where I had my first degree and master's degree was in University of Benin. So as I got there, after the admission and after the clearance and everything, I was assigned a supervisor. So I got the supervisor and the co-supervisor. I never knew anybody in that school, so I had to just begin to navigate my way. So, but I have to also now ask some of my fellow PhD students who graduated from that school, who had these persons like. So they were telling me their story. Oh, yeah, sorry, God bless you, is well with you. Different kind of talk. So I said I have to move on. So, but one joyful moment for me in that program before I will go into the moment is the joyful moment was that there was a day that my supervisor, after a very long period, now had to approve my title. This title approval did not come so easy. It took almost a year. That is about 12 months. So, and he also approved my concept note. This particular moment was a very joyful moment for me, considering where I'm coming from. But the issue is that the lesson I want us to take from here is that this approval wasn't a very easy journey. But one thing was that it was a long period for me, and I was very unhappy throughout this period. But that moment again also reminded me about the fact that research, I was supposed to know the interest of my supervisor before even beginning my PhD program. Because there's one mistake we make in this part of the world. Yes, if you want to apply for scholarship by the country, yes, we'll get to know the school, we'll get to sort of supervisors, and also know their area of interest. But back here in Nigeria, you need to apply for the program after getting the admission before you now get to know your supervisor. So if it's not the school that you were before now, so you don't tend to understand and know the interest of a supervisor. Because I never knew his current research interest. So that also gave me this very long journey to get my concept note and title approved. So it wasn't a very easy one for me. So, but at the end of the day, I was very joyful because this concept note brought me joy on the side of relief after 1 year into the thesis program. So as at that time, I almost got frustrated. But one thing that kept me going, that I'm coming from a research institute where I was told that it was a time will come when you get to a particular level, you must proceed on a program, whether master's or PhD program, depending on the level that you are. So as at that time, I was to proceed on a PhD program. So it's a must that you must go. And I already have a mandate crop in mind that we're working on in my research institute. So I already have a work in mind already. But one thing is that I refused. I didn't really understand the interest of my supervisor because of this. I could not marry his interest with my own interest so that we could come up with something that would have been very easy for me at the end of the day. I'll make my title also be approved on time. But at the end of the day, the title got approved. But if we go further, sir, to the very painful moment, the painful moment is that after 8 months into the program, I lost hope in the PhD program. So because as at that time I was not having a working title, I was frustrated and I took my things from Akure then. I came back to Benin where my family is based. I decided to come relax myself. But while I was here, something kept telling me, is this how I'm going to end the program? how will it be that I could not finish my PhD program? I decided to become on some of my supervisor friends in my former alma mater, which is University of Benin. I decided to discuss with them, look at what I'm passing through. Oh, they now gave me some very useful advice. Oh, that first and foremost, what I was supposed to do is to also go online, read my current supervisor's interests, also tend to know if he's winning grants and all of that, also tend to know what he's doing at the moment. That with that, I can be able to also marry my work without deviating from my own passion. So that his own interests will also be covered inside the work, whether partly or fully. So when I got the message, as I got that message and I knew that, oh, on my own part, I've also made some mistakes. I decided to go back. When I went back, I approached it with this particular vigor. So all of this pain that I had for close to 1 year will just settle within a while. When I met my supervisor, I discussed with him, we related. He's a very intelligent man, a very good man at that. It's just that I never understood him at all. So, but along the line, when I got to understand him, so I decided to now, bring some work before him, discuss with him. Also, one thing I now brought before him was that I was not just bringing just my work alone. I was also trying to also bring in his own activity, trying to know what he's doing, how I could also be part of it, so that it will not just be that I'm just coming to collect without also trying to also assist the man that is also there. So along the line, we now started flowing and we started moving on. So when I found out that I was not just interested in my work alone, that I was also interested in his own academic activity, he now started developing interest in me. From there, he now gave me some very bulky materials to go and read. So when I read it, he gave me 2 weeks. I told him I'll be back in 5 days. And God me, I was truly back in 5 days. So when I came back, he knew I was not serious for business. So from there, I was able to marry my work coming from my institute with his own research interests. From there, we made headway. And the concept note, which he told me to go and develop, was approved immediately, and I now moved into the proposal stage. So that painful moment was also partly my fault. But it was, on the other hand, because I was new in that university, I never understood some things. I never understood my supervisor. So all of this brought frustration to me for that 1 year. So imagine you not having a working title for 1 year. It was indeed a very frustrating moment. But one thing I will also say is that one lesson for anybody going to postgraduate program, whether doctorate or master's, is that PhD is actually a journey. But this journey, please don't personalize the journey. Personalize in the sense that don't take it that you're just coming to get your work done. But please, as you tend to arrange yourself with knowledge through the process, but please also try and make sure the entire program is not centered around you. Be concerned about the activities of your supervisor. Like what I did after that moment, after that my 1 year sojourn that was not a very good one. When I started involving myself in my supervisor activities, like also assisting him in his undergraduate student supervision, marking, supervising tests, marking 10 paper, he did one particular thing that I will not forget. When he gave me his student to supervise, he gave me their work to go evaluate the work, bring out all the issues that are in the work, which I did, and I brought those criticisms back to him. He went through. It was from there we now started, our closeness now started, getting better. Because one thing he told me, that I said I cannot be his friend until I'm done with this program. I'm not his enemy. He said now he's doing his job while I'm also doing my own work. So I realized that in this particular journey that I am into, I'm not here to come and be, forming friendship and all of that, but to get serious with business, also assist him in the activities. Then from there, also now build a niche that will also save me in subsequent work. That particular first year, I'm happy that thing happened in that first year. It was indeed an eye-opener for me, and it made all my other activities throughout the program a very seamless one. So one thing I will beg is that as we come into the program, please, that we should not just center the work around ourselves. Let us be concerned about what our supervisors are doing. And at the end, they will also be happy and they will also give you their best. I'm saying this because my supervisor was into grants, or has won several grants. Sometimes he will be so troubled that he doesn't want to see anybody. So when I come in, I will just ask, what can I do for you, sir? He will tell me he's having some issue with this. I will keep my job. I will keep my work at that moment. I will just keep it. I will now also decide to now ask, sir, where can I also come in? He will tell me, see if you can do something in this area. I will sit down with my laptop in his office and see what I can do. And at the moment, before the end of that day, we'll not find out that we will be able to make some, headway. He will not be happy. Then me, I'm also happy. Though I've not done my work for that day, but as he's happy, he will not be discussing with me and telling me stories about his own PhD program. So from that particular moment, our relationship got better. So that's why my advice is that don't come into the program believing that you're just coming to get your work done. But please, as you are coming, know that you have another person's cross to also add to your own. I don't believe in you going to watch supervisors' cars or doing all that. No, that is not part of the work. I'm talking about academic activities that will also, on the long run, also help develop you as a person. And at the end of the day, you also be better off. So, and at the end of the day, we were able to work very well. And after that particular 1 year sojourn, that was not very good for me. That was the worst year I had. And after then, it was not a very good moment for me because I planned everything and we're now working as I've already planned them out. So that is just my only two advice for those that are coming into the program.
Well, thank you, Dr.
Thank
Bright. That was a massive one. Use pain as a fuel and ensure that you understand your supervisor interests. Don't let the research work centered on you. Know that your supervisor has a stake in your work and always position yourself. Supervisor-student relationship is like mentor-mentee relationship. So always position yourself as a mentee. You are there to be mentored, and you are there to render some supportive ends. Thank you very much, Dr. Bright. And Professor Asim, over to you.
Thank you so much. I've so much listened to Dr. Bright, and I forgot I had to speak. So thank you.
You're welcome.
You see, said I should speak about one joyful, fulfilling moment.
Yes.
And then one painful, overwhelming, and one. I wish we could just keep on listening to the last speakers.
Wow.
For me, like he said, I went to a different environment. Like I said, I didn't do my first degree in UI, but I went there and saw a different culture. And in that place, just like I tell students, there's a saying that the pupil does not remember that the headmaster was once a pupil. We need to remember that supervisor was also once a student. And so there are many things that supervisor has also passed through before getting to where that supervisor has reached. And it wasn't an easy journey. When you remember that, it will help you to know how to navigate. When you come into the program, your mind first would be, oh, I came here to do my PhD program and I'm going to do it within this space of time, and then I'll just walk away. But the first disappointment will be things may not work out the way you planned when you came. So for me, I came into an environment, and you see the world, I could say, renowned professors, you will find them there. Those ones that at least every other week, they are out of campus or they are out of the country going to do one thing or the other, you find them there. So they have amassed so much wealth of information. But for you as a student, for me, the first thing was this. I had so many ideas. I think this is what I need to work on. This is what I need. I'll just craft. I had a 20-leaf notebook. And then I'll craft things that then look like topics to me, which today, when I look at them, I laugh. That's what I tell my students. I crafted different topics and almost filled that book. Anytime I go, he will say, you don't have a topic, go and keep on reading. And I'll go away. I kept on going in and out and not feeling too excited. But when at the end, I decided also to consult other people. Then I got to one professor that told me, this particular topic you said you want to work on, this area, how long do you have for this program? And I told him. He said, this topic looks like something that you may need 5 years or 6 years to do. Why don't you settle for something you can do within the period you have? So after that, when you have done with your PhD, you have all the time in the world to go and do this study. So sometimes I want our students to understand that excitement, that thing that looks to you like I can do it now, may not be what it is from another person's perspective. So it may be good to share ideas, to let other people see what you're trying to do and be able to advise. So when I ended up cutting off this and I had just a little left, and then I now went, he said, go and keep reading. So for me, for each of the topics left, I read so much about them that I became an authority in those areas. And for me, I could see, indeed, this is not what I'll be able to do. In the end, what I took to him was just something he said, now, I think you have a direction. So develop a concept note, 3-page concept notes on this idea and come back to me. So that thing that took months and weeks of anxiety, of unhappiness, of almost quarreling or feeling bad about my supervisor, that he wasn't approving a topic. For some people, they could go and ask for change of supervisor because it's allowed. You can go and ask that, please change the supervisor for me, and you get it done. But I stuck, and I thank God that I did. I stuck with him. And then in the end, one joyful, fulfilling moment for me was when I defended my post-field proposal. We had a renowned professor that you really very quiet. So when this man wants to, when this professor stands up among other professors to speak, everybody gets scared because they don't know what he's going to say, and it may make or mar whatever is happening. So on the day I defended my post-field proposal, that professor stood up. He put up his hand and they granted him audience. He stood up. He said, let me say what I have not said before in a proposal defense. And my heart sank because I didn't know the next sentence. He now said, when a student bends down to work, it shows in the work. Congratulations. All of a sudden, my supervisor just came to me and virtually lifted me up in the crowd. And I would say that was one joyful, fulfilling moment. For me, it looked like I had finished the work already, because that man could have said something that would mean that is the end of that, and I'll go and start all over. So for me, it was so satisfying. It was so calming that at least I did my due diligence of trying to find out from other people, and then eventually narrow down to what, like Dr. Bright said, when you know what your supervisor is doing and you try to help in your own way, you discover that you are also paving a way for yourself. And I made sure that anytime I went to see my supervisor, I would ask, please, sir, is there something you want me to do for you? He said, yes, yes, yes. These people wanted me to deliver a paper and this. Take this and go and get me the materials. I'll now drop my whatever I came with and I'll go to the library. Then it was not all this virtual search and so on. I'll go to the library, get the materials. I'll get them photocopy the ones I can. And then when I'm coming back, I'll come back and give to him. And he will say, look at this topic. How do you think I should approach it? I think he started building confidence in how I was able. I would now tell him, from the topic, you could go this way or this, but I think it's better discussed this way. He said precisely, okay, I'm going to go this way, like you said. So when he writes it, he said, be reading. His typist was one young guy. He said, collect it and be reading. If there's any error in the typing, it's on you. I would say, yes, sir. And I would sit. I would not remember I came from my own supervision. I'll read through and give to him. And then he did one very good thing. Any paper that he presented anywhere, he would make sure he gave me a copy and say, good, go and read this. I think it will help you. So it now became a relationship of help me, I help you. And he found that I was useful to him and he paid so much attention. But there, it was every Thursday that he met with his students that he was supervising. But for me, anytime I went there, he would open his doors for me because he knew that I was willing to help. Go here, do this, do this. I knew that just like I needed his help, he also needed my help. So that's the other painful, overwhelming moment was not from my supervisor directly. One day we learned, like I tell students I teach, there are many things you learn. It's not just what you went to school to learn. I went to see the PG coordinator, the graduate committee chair, because there are certain documents that must pass from him to somewhere. So when I went, I stood, I knew he was inside because I heard voices inside. I stood, you know, as a student, you don't bump into an office. So I stood there, I was watching. I stood for over 5 hours. I was waiting for when either he will come out so I can say I was here. After a long while, he now came out from the office and was almost leaving. And I now said, please, sir, I have been waiting here. The first question he asked me, he said, did you knock? So what did I learn? Standing by somebody's door and waiting for 10 hours doesn't tell the person you are there. At least that one is not something they teach in the class. I should have knocked. At least, even if I knocked and opened if he said, come in, I opened the door, he can say, wait for me, I'm busy. But I never did. And you think that next time when I go, I wouldn't have to knock. I learned. It was a hard, painful experience, but I had to learn. And then I teach my students also. Doesn't mean that anytime you come, somebody may be busy. He may not be able to attend to you immediately, but you indicate that you are there. You may say, wait, or come back. But to just stand and expect that if you had been busy all day, just coming and seeing you standing there will make the person change their mind. There are many things that we need to learn that are not taught in the classroom. That's for our students. Now, one lesson I would like to give to postgraduate students is this. Remember, and I learned that from my supervisor. Remember, first and foremost, that it is your work. That PhD, whatever you are writing, is your work. you own it. You will put your name on it. It is something that of interest to you that made you want to study that particular phenomenon or whatever. Remember, first and foremost is your work. So you should know so much about it and almost become an authority in that area. Do not expect that because somebody is a professor, is a demigod, will know everything. All the students is supervising, you will know everything. It's not possible. Because I learned that from my supervisor. When we sit together, you say, yes, this one will speak, this one, he said, this should not be, this should be. He said, okay, I'll remove it, I'll remove it. Then he will get angry and say, you mean you came here with nothing in your head? And that's why everything I say, you say, I'll remove it, I'll remove it. Then you remove everything and then you have nothing left. So at least you should know what you are doing and be an authority in it so that you can defend. For me, he will always say, this one holds her point tenaciously like a bulldog. I said, yes, Prof, it's my area, it's my work. I've read so much about it and I know the current literature in that area. So the supervisor is also learning from you. Don't think that because you are a student, when you go, supervisor should feed you, spoon feed you, tell you all what you need to know in your area, and you will not have any contribution to make or to give. That no, in this time, this was the book that they were using, but we have current things now. For instance, somebody may supervise you and tell you, okay, go and use a SPSS package. But there are statistical packages now that are beyond SPSS. And if you're a current student in my own area of interest and focus, you should know. Even if I say, oh, SPSS, you should be able to tell me that there are many, many statistical packages available now. This will be better than this. So we expect you to be ahead in a way in your field, but there are certain technical things that you expect because this supervisor had gone beyond you in certain areas. There are certain things this supervisor can tell you that if you're going to look for this and this and this may not be the proper approach. But note that you need to take charge of your work. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you very much, Professor Asim. That is massive. Thank you, Professor Maureen. Thank you, Dr. Bright, and thank you, Professor Asim. Once again, Professor Asim said, remember, it is your work. You own it. During my PhD journey, my supervisor will always tell me that you must know about your research work more than me. That is when I can believe that I'm supervising you. So he wants me, whenever we are cross-checking or discussing on the work, he always wants me to lead the conversation. So for the postgraduate students, those that are on the journey already, those that want to join the journey, I think a lot has been said from by Professor Maureen, Dr. Bright, Professor Asim. I think the best we can do is to see how we can integrate all what they have said and begin to make the journey a journey of progress, a journey of peace, and a journey of impact for ourselves. So once again, I want to thank all our panelists. And as we are now moving, I'm taking a shift from experience to now moving to insight and deep diving into the real talk on the practical, emotional, and intellectual challenges of the doctoral journey, which I tag the journey, research, and realities. So I'm going to be starting this segment with Dr. Bright, which I will be posing a question to Dr. Bright, which the question goes like this. Dr. Bright, would you say postgraduate study is a lonely journey?
Okay, thank you very much for the question, sir. Well, the question is a yes or no, but one thing is that one tend to be higher than the other. The postgraduate program is to a large extent a lonely journey. When I mean lonely, because it's quite different from the undergraduate studies where you will do regular lecture, have regular lecture classes, and also group work and all of that. But the postgraduate level, it requires a long time of solo work. So you're always alone trying to do the reading, trying to do the thinking, trying to do the writing and all of that. And you don't see your supervisor every day. You come when you've done a task that you guys have discussed before. You now come and relate with him and also discuss with him and know the next way to also go. So to a large extent, the postgraduate journey is a lonely journey. But one thing why I would not say it's totally a lonely journey is because if you make it fully a lonely journey, there might also be issues because when you get frustrated and all of that along the line, you might just remain there. God forbid, one might ever die there. So that's why it's good to also surround yourself with some support system. So that's why partly you also have some other persons, maybe lecturers, friends. Like what I did there was the younger lecturers that were in my school then, as I drew some very close, some became my friend. So sometimes if I get bored in my room or the library where I do the reading, I'll come to their offices where we could also discuss some areas which are not too clear to me. So when I get their views and all of that, sometimes I also pose some situations to them, some scenarios, and also see what their views are. At the end of the day, I also go back to literature to also cross-check their answers to these different views to see which one is on the right path. So because of their experience in the academic journey, so they also tend to also give you their experience over time. So that's why I will not totally say it's fully a lonely journey, but to a large extent, it's a lonely journey because most of the things are done by you and you alone because the vision is yours. Your supervisor is just guiding you through the path. So that is why I will agree that postgraduate program is to a large extent a lonely journey because of the independent nature of you carrying out your work. And again, you have little or no social interaction. Because why I would say that is that while I was in that school, I can remember my undergraduate days, at least I enjoyed my beat around the University of Benin. I know everywhere in University of Benin. But I cannot boast of that now that I know everywhere in Federal University of Technology, Akure, that's Futa, because I only know some few places. The time was not there, so I had little or no social interaction while I was there. Because the bigger work that was on me was actually the pictures I was always seeing before me every now and then. And again, because of the fact that, like the undergraduate level, when you storm into issues, you don't really run to your supervisor. Please, oh man, this is it. But at the postgraduate, at this PhD level, master's level, you cannot just bump into a supervisor like that. Limited interaction time with them. You come when you have definite things to discuss, and when there are issues to tackle, and when you want to also pose that you have done this or you have done that, outlining all the areas that you've already done, and also showing that this is the next level I'm going to. So when all these are not done, you cannot just go and meet your supervisor. It's not a place where you just say you want to come and say hi to him or her. It is not done like that. So in view of all of these, so there's also some, to a large extent, a lonely nature in the PhD program, though not 100% a lonely journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. Thank you. I was even about to follow it up with what was your personal experience like and how would you encourage other postgraduate students, those that are preparing to start the journey. And now you have wrapped everything up into the question. Thank you for that insight. Not 100% a lonely journey, but to a larger degree, you have to know that it is your journey and you have to walk it. That it's your journey and you have to walk it does not mean that you should not seek support. Does not mean that you should not seek company that will be of help. You mentioned that how you will visit some other academics in the university to learn and even allow them to even bastardize, talk some things that can be somehow shameful. That is those things that you need to know how to lower your ego during the doctoral journey. And now I'm moving on to Professor Asim. Now we know that the prayer to publish is real. As a postgraduate student, in some university, you have the total number of publications you must have made before you can talk about even defending your work. So, Prof, what is your perspective on journal selection, publishing strategy, and the real meaning of quality research?
Thank you so much, moderator. Well, this is a larger audience, because if it was in my institution, because of my position, former position as Director of Quality Assurance, we do a lot of training on things I had to do. And I had done a full training on predatory journals and how to identify them in terms of quality of a journal. But for the sake of this audience, I would like to say that, like you rightly pointed out, the regulation now in my university is that while you're doing your PhD or master's, you're expected to publish certain aspects, and then there should be evidence that it had been published as part of your graduation criteria. So I would advise that for anybody here that is a student, or even academics, not necessarily students, you need to do your due diligence to avoid falling prey to predatory journals. These journals have questionable character. Sometimes you are inundated with information, and there are some people that make it their duty within the university to get around people and try to tell you, submit your publication. You submit, for me, in the presentation I did, I called it now.com. You know, now you submit, and then before you know it, come and get your article published. And I want to, people sometimes ask questions, how do I know predatory journals? They can be identified using, we have what we call journal evaluation tools. These journal evaluation tools, you have them that can help you identify journals that are predatory. Predatory journals have questionable character. They lack proper ethical review. If you look at the reviewers of such journals, I think this is not a full presentation about that aspect. I'm just picking out certain things. They are more out for profit and no value to authors or readers. If you hear the fantastic amounts people pay presently to be able to publish one article, you wonder where people have that type of money to publish at that type of amount. And then you see people coming together, and sometimes the people that write, and others just tag along and decide to pay, and then they put my name. That's what we call them. But for these predatory journals, you first look at their websites, low quality website design. But you can escape them through checking. We have what we call journal indexing database. These contain stock of quality journals. If you check journal indexing database, you will see quality journals where you can direct your articles to. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you will find out, because you are eager, sometimes they put a fake H index and then you fall prey. But I think let pressure not make you want to publish anywhere, because it will be bad. For, like in my university, when we are doing A&P, centrally done, appointment and promotion committee. Every single journal that you have listed for your promotion, we go online and look at the status and whatever. So it's not what you say, but what we scrutinize and see. So it's a full different day lesson and training on that. But I've given you this information. If you look at, there's something called what is research. What, W-H-A-T, capital W, is small I-S, research, starts with capital R, one single word. If you browse, just put that in your browser and browse. And then there are things that you will see. But I think for the purpose of publishing, selecting journals and producing quality research, there are certain things. First and foremost, you look at what is the problem that this person is addressing. Is this study a quantitative or qualitative research or just a position paper? And what this person is going to say this was going to do, there are ways of doing them. Has this been done? So that even if a paper accepts to publish anything for you, there are people that scrutinize this and tell you that this is not what it should be. So that is my own brief advice on publishing pressure, journal selection, and producing quality research. And I want you to take that home for being in this audience today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. That was a massive advice. You mentioned journal identification tools. You mentioned journal indexing database. You also mentioned go to website, go online and search for what is research. And in this, talking about the quality of research, you mentioned whether it's a qualitative research or quantitative research, or whether it's just a position article. And you now mentioned that position
paper,
whether it's a position paper. I think in the world we had today, there are a lot we can do with what you have made on. Yes, I know that this is a full lecture on its own that we want to about 2 hours session if we are going to address it properly. But we can go ahead and do due diligence to this and search online for all what Prof has just mentioned so that we can get a better understanding and know how to guide ourselves from falling prey of all those journal all about. I remember I sent a colleague of mine recommended a paper to me. He published there, and I sent my article there. And when the article came back to me from Rivera, I never sent it back. Yes, it is my work. I'm supposed to be happy that there are no more maybe correction or like that. No, I want, why I'm publishing is I want it to be better in a way, critique it in a way that I will know whether I need to improve on how I design my work or I design my research. I never sent it to that journal back. I never made the correction and sent it. I sent it to another journal, and it was massive. They opened my eyes to a lot of things that was even missing in that manuscript. So that is, if you are a committed and future forward researcher, these are things that you need to begin to pay attention to, because being academia, you are building a record, you are building a personality, you are building a track record of your personality that slight mistake can rubbish everything you have worked for. Overnight work, sleepless night, just in a minute or in a day, that can be rubbish. And I know that we all don't want such for ourselves. So I will move on to Dr. Bright. We are coming back to you. Asking, how did you handle issues like writer's block? We just talked about quality of publication, quality of research, and publication strategy. How, since you are kind of a fresh PhD graduate, how do you handle the issue of writer blocks, data delays, and tension with your supervisor? You have talked about that, but we want you to like integrate writer blocks, data delay, and that tension. How you handle all those together during the research, the doctoral journey.
Okay, thank you very much for the question once again, sir. The way I handle the writer's block was that first, because I'm coming from a research institute, I already understand how research will go to a large extent. But just that when you get to the academic environment, you must now bring your head down in humility to follow, the direction that is there. So, firstly, what I did after I got through that my title approval and the concept note, so I immediately divided my work. I had a roadmap by dividing my work into, chapters and into smaller units. Like I would not say, okay, introduction, the problem statement, the justification, the objective. I break it down. If I could achieve this within a set period which I've already designed, this one will be the activity for a particular period. Then the next one will also follow just like that. I had a supervisor that was very thorough in terms of reading in between lines. That if he sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mistake, he might not, the interest of reading your work will not be there again. So because of that, I have to ensure that after designing the roadmap for the work by breaking them into chapters and smaller units, then I went ahead to now follow them diligently, chapter by chapters. But meanwhile, I've done my own, search for materials. I have been able to download one of the things I would learn from my supervisor was that there was an assignment they gave me one. They said he wants to know if I even know how to identify very good papers online that are very rich in different work. He gave me a title that I should go download up to about 10 good materials on that work. I spent the weekend really downloading and reading the work and all of that, seeing the kind of papers, see who these persons are, looking at their antecedent, trying to also get their profile. From there, and I knew, this person's work are far better than this and all of that. Source on developmental work like the DFI, the FID, and all of that. So my supervisor has already given me a hint on how all of these things go. So because of that, I've already downloaded my materials. They are in one of my files in my system. So after I now follow them, smaller unit by smaller unit in each of the chapter. A chapter might be too big for you to just begin once. Introduction is a smaller unit inside chapter 1. So from there, I also go further. The objective is also a smaller unit inside chapter 1. The problem statement is also there. The justification is also there. These are broke into smaller units. So that as I finish this smaller unit, I will now go back again and begin to now read and see whether it flows. If one particular line flows into the other. Because of the nature of supervisor I have, I don't need to make mistake, because if I make mistake, my trouble will also be higher than the trouble I've had before. So this time around, I have to help myself by doing my work diligently and spending more time so that I will not also fall into, any issue that will not be good for me. So because as I follow them chapter by chapter, as I begin to read, I will see how each line flow into the other. So when you follow it down like that, I will also look at the objective. Then after the objective, I move further again. I must be able to now tell what is this problem that this work is trying to address. That problem must be very clear to everybody that will handle the work and also go through the work. Then again, I must be able to justify. Justification like that, another smaller unit again inside the work. So don't just model the work up by just saying, I want to write chapter 1 today. It is not done like that. It is a smaller unit inside each of the chapter that you begin to take, bit by bit. As you take one, if you get tired, you don't need to burn yourself out. If you get tired, go and sleep, eat, relax. Maybe the next day again, you begin. So just like that, before you know, you begin to finish all of this work that you have spent out with their timelines and all of that. Sometimes you might not also meet to some deadline that you have specified. That does not mean, it's not a sign of weakness, but just that maybe a lot of things also led to that. Don't be discouraged. Continuing the work. If you have already outlined about 14 days for a particular exercise before, and you now find out that you are using 21 days, there's nothing bad. The good thing is that the best of the work should be the one that will drive you. That what is coming out should be something that you know you'll be happy with first and foremost before you now bring it out. So with that unit by unit, it was easier. I did same for also the chapter 2, the literature review, where you need to break it down into each of the units as well, where you have the conceptual framework, the methodological framework, the analytical framework, the theoretical framework. You must break it down into each of these segments and take it segment by segment. And with that, you now find out that this work will now become easier as you go, as you move further by the day. Then before you now also move to, let's say, chapter 3. Chapter 3 again, that methodology, after describing those study and all of that, you must ensure that the tool that you intend to use must be addressing each of the objectives. And again, you must give reason why these tools that you are using again are more preferable than every other tools. So all of these, if you begin to follow them little by little like this, so that particular issue of that, with the write-up that people normally have in terms of, though there's overload of information, but as you follow them little by little, just like that, you get to do everything with ease before, within the specified period. And again, you should not also be far away. Like what I did, I was not far away from campus. I left my family in Benin here. I was in Akure. I was on campus because campus also helped me in the write-up. It had the way of sparking up your idea because all you see there are no distractions. Everybody minding their business. Everybody doing their things their way, especially in the PhD hostels. So staying on campus also helped me to also ensure that as I was following all of these unit by unit, smaller unit breakdown in the different chapters, of the environment I was staying, it had a better influence on what I was doing. And again, along the line, if there are issues that are not so clear to me, I have read it, I still don't understand it, I have maneuvered it, it's still not working. They will also beckon on this, my young lecturer that I've mentioned before. I will go see them. If there are issues like this, what do I do? What do you think? From there, I also get their views and all of that. I'll now come back again and remodify my work. Because the write-up, this writing stage, is not just a one-way thing that if you just do it, you are done with it. No, every day you keep improving on it. If you remember as you sleep, because as you sleep, you dream it, you remember it, you think about it, so you come back again, and also whatever you feel, you come back again, add to it, remove. You're always adding and deleting every now and then. So that is how I was able to also handle that particular, the writer's block. But for the data collection, because of the fact that I am an agricultural economist, so I'm in the socioeconomic area. So all I did, because I'm also from the research environment, I already know that first and foremost, there are periods of, if we want to do data collection, we must also spell it out. But before the data collection, I've also done my pre-data presentation at the departmental level. That pre-data is where all the experts in the department, the professors, the doctors and all of them also criticize your work and also tell you what to do in some areas, tell you why some things should be there, and some things which they are not clear, but you also now, you also be the one to also now clarify them on why you intend to use a particular model or tool for your work. But one thing is that the kind of supervisor I have, because of his nature, even during my presentation, something came into his head and he decided to ask me a question. I was furious and I was also, God, why should this be? Even when some professor was telling him that you cannot ask question here, that you can, it's your student, you can only deal with. He said no, that he wants to ask now. That something just came into his head that he needed to clarify. God saved me that I was able to answer. So in all of these, at the end of the day, the presentation went well. So I was now told to now proceed to, to the field to collect data. But in terms of the collection of data, because of the way we work, first and foremost, you have to get a list of all your respondents. But when you get a list of all your respondents, that is not an end, in itself. We now tend to now go further by identifying the different local government areas where this work will be carried out. And in these different local government areas, there are already, agricultural extension officers. In some cases, there are also some, other ADP staff. All of these persons are not, what I did was I forwarded my own list of respondents to them to also cross-check to see if these particular respondents are really in their own area. So they now also gave their comment and their own advice and all of that. I came back, I made an adjustment in all of these. Before now going back to them, they will now have a comprehensive list for the work. But one thing I also never did is that one thing I don't believe in giving questionnaire, whether sending your app in your phone to them or the hard copy to them to now go and get the respondent, because people do a lot of magic at the moment. And when they perform those magic in terms of the feeling for you, I will say that you will be the one to suffer this thing at the end of the day. When the analysis is not going well, and when questions are posed to you, you will suffer it critically. But at the PhD level, no mercy at all when it comes to questioning, trying to know how your sampling was done, trying to know why you choose a particular sample, trying to also know why you now arrive at this sample, trying to also know why, at the end of the day, how you got across to this respondent and all of that. So if you were not there at the field, somebody did it for you, all of this will always pose challenges to you when it now comes to defending your data at the end of the day. So all of these, so the data collection wasn't really much of a problem to me because of my background. So I've already been able to follow through this channel that I know of, using them, then going to meet them, then they're taking me to the respective communities. All I did for them was to give them their logistics and allowance. And because here now, you have to also now, you'll be the one to suffer the financial expenses. The financial burdens are on you, the student. So I did all of this, and at the end of the day, I took my information back to school to now also, continue my work. But one thing that my supervisor, the way I also handled my supervisor's tension was that I've already understood my supervisor's current interest that had been addressed at the beginning, and my involvement in all that he has been doing, which also helped me. But one thing is that there is no shortcut in anything that you do with him. Before going to the field, we discussed. He asked me a lot of questions. He opened my work again after the presentation, and we discussed on how the sampling and all of that will be perfectly be achieved. At the end of the day, when I came back from the field, I came to relate with him my experiences in the field. So those experiences, he also noted them down, so that in case I'm not discussing some work, discussing some items in my work, he will also know what led to that. So if I was not in the field, I wouldn't have been able to explain this to him. And I would not want to now, because at that level, nobody will just allow you go just like that at all. It is not an undergraduate level where everybody can just go together. At the PhD, the vision is yours and you must follow it to the latter critically. And so my supervisor's tension, I was able to manage it by doing what he wants, by following the entire process diligently to ensure that there are no opera. Having suffered a 1-year loss in getting a thesis title, I don't want to suffer that again. So because of that, I took everything seriously, and I did them the way they ought to be done, and relate with him at every point in time. And when there are difficulty, I also tend to let him know so that he will now also give me his own advice, not just me bringing everything that I saw in the field just the way it is, different from what was agreed on. So if there are challenges, I'll tell him that these are the challenges that I faced, and this is what I'm thinking that will also now help in that regard. And so I also seek his own concept, so he will now also reason with me, and will now later be on the same page. So all of that was what I used in also, achieving to get the work done, and to also reduce the enhancement tension.
Wow.
So that at the end of the day, there will be no issue along the line.
Wow.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. Thank you, Dr. Bright. That was massive. That was massive. Break down your work into unit by unit that you can be able to approach them step by step. And also for your data, know what you are looking for, know where to get it, know the method you are using, know the tools that best work and why you are choosing those tools. That will really help you in your data and help fast tracking how you get your data and ensure that you are there yourself. It is your work. Prof said earlier, Professor said, own it. It is your work. that you are there to ensure that the data you are collecting or you are getting, if it's a lab work, ensure that you are there also to be involved in all the processes. And also for the tension, understand your supervisor. From Dr. Bright, I think the first step in this is, first of all, know who is your supervisor. Understand how best to relate with your supervisor. Then the journey with your supervisor will be an understandable one. Thank you, Dr. Bright. And Professor Maureen, let's talk. Because of our time, I will go rightly to Professor Maureen. I will have said Professor Asim and Professor Maureen should say something about that, but later we will still call on them to say something on the strategy to go about that. But now let's talk about productivity. Prof, we have people on doctoral journey that are juggling family, job, and that they study all together. Now, the question now is, what daily or weekly habit will you recommend, or will you advise, or will you suggest that these people can bring in on board to kind of integrate these three units of their life? They are juggling together to ensure that this whole journey does not drown them. Professor Maureen.
Thank you very much, Dr. Idu. Wow, that's a very sensitive question. What I'm saying that is that during my own period, I really struggled with that. And I know that presently, a lot of, especially the PhD students, they are struggling with that. They are really struggling with that. But one thing that really helped me, which I must say in this panel, so that every one of us will bear it in our heart, is that one thing I believe is that prayer works. Once you involve God in your PhD program, God makes the journey very smooth for you. So I made sure that I prayed every day. And I discovered that with prayer, God gives you a step-by-step procedure of how you take the activity and the challenges of the day. Sometimes you'll be caught up with a challenge, you'll be lost on what to do. And because you took God along with you, you made God your partner, God will just open your eyes and you see the solution. Like Dr. Bright have rightly said, when you are sleeping, suddenly you get revelation, you get solutions to that pressing challenge. So I must say that for every PhD student, you must pray very well. I remember one of my colleagues said that PhD is a cult activity. So how do you overcome cult activity? By involving God, by letting God be involved. So please, I beg of you, you need to pray. You need to pray that God will interfere with your program and help you to go through. Because like we all have rightly said, PhD is a big responsibility. And it's something that we know that we cannot carry it alone on our own. So we need God to intervene for us. So I must say, prayer should be a day-to-day activity of every PhD student. Then number two thing I want to say is that number two is, like we have said, raising our family, working, and also the PhD is very tasking. So number 2 point I want to include is that, please, we must be very plain and frank with our family members and our employers. Let us carry them along. There is nothing to hide from them, especially our employers. In fact, we have to spell it before them. Put your cards on your table and let them know that you are running a very tasking program. And sometimes they need to give you a break. So your family should be carried along. Let your family know that, oh, today you are not going to come back on time. You are going to spend so much time in the lab. So they should take care of their dinner. They should take care of themselves and make sure that the door is locked and then things are in place. So you need to carry your family along. your employer too should be carried along. When you are not in the office, your employer should know why you were not there, so that you don't have serious issue with your employer. And thank God for where I am coming from. We have this habit of always carrying along our employer, maybe as the HOD of the department, our PhD students, especially those that are the full-time staff. They will come to me and they will tell me, please, ma, I'm running a program. Please, I won't be in school for 2 days, for 3 days, because I need to get to the lab. So by so doing, that work responsibility will be assigned to somebody else, so that your work will not be suffering. And at the end of the day, the department will be suffering because of just one person that is running a PhD. So don't hide your PhD. Don't feel that people will not be happy with you, that you are developing yourself, you are getting to a higher height, and people do not want to support.
Thank you, Professor Maureen. And Professor Alice, before we leave that question and go to the question that I want to ask you, which is about burnout and motivation dips, I want to ask that no, burnout is real when it's coming to doctoral journey. It's real. We can't shy away from that. Now, my question will be, how can a PhD candidate maintain their mental health and energy throughout that
on
journey?
a PhD?
Yes.
And one of the reasons why you embarked on that PhD is to improve yourself and your family. So for your family to be there with you, you need to spend time with them. So spend time and quality time with your family. And at the same time, when it is time to do work, make sure you do your work. Time for you to go to the lab or to start writing your thesis, make sure you do that. You do not allow family matters to begin to encroach in your work when it.
Can I speak?
Yes, Professor Asim.
Okay. Mine is a bit different.
Like spotless home. We want to put everything in order, make sure that we are in market when we are supposed to be in market, cook the food, keep the home in order, and the rest of it. But during your PhD, that will not fly anymore. We have to let go of some of this responsibility. And that is a period when we begin to delegate some of this activity to our wards and to our grown-up children. Let's delegate these activities to them. That will help us to buy enough time to focus on our work. Very important. Then another very important issue I want to discuss on how to marry our work, our program, and also our family is to.
Professor Maureen, the floor is for Professor Azim now.
I was asked to talk about how navigate burnout and mental health tips.
Yes.
The guy that will keep on, well, for me, my going to do my program, I went full time. So, because I knew that going between home and this thing was not possible for me. I still had, but I had the good fortune of my mother-in-law and my husband, and so who allowed me to go full-time. So I was on full-time out. So being on full-time, I knew I had to focus on, I did not have any other thing that took me there. It was just for my PhD. But at certain times, when the pressure became too much, I would create time, develop my interests. Like for me, I write fiction, I write children's story books. So it was in the process of that I wrote science poems for children as a PhD student, which eventually was published, co-authored with my supervisor, so it's there in the public domain. So what I would say, it doesn't mean that because you're doing PhD work and you get so buried in the work that you don't see any other thing. That may be the only time you will have some other little time to follow your passion. And people have different passions. And for me, the issue of knowing that it's a time where you need to connect, like we say, it's a lonely journey. For me, it's lonely, but not completely lonely. There are friends that I created around myself during my PhD program that we are still friends till today. We have remained friends. We met in school and we have remained friends, and we learn from each other, from one another, because it's not just two persons. All of us have some other, when you feel from, they say your hobby, you're this, you're this. The only thing that will help you remain insane as a PhD person is to try to do something a bit different from what the academic demands of PhD are. And when you face that and do it, something that gives you interest, something that makes you happy doing it, you discover that that's a way of calming your mental health so that you don't become too, let me say in quote, heavy in the head because it's all academics. You can join different groups doing different things, but you know that that is just a way of relieving stress. And that's for me. I follow my passion, I write and do some little fiction, children's story books and things like that. And then that for me is relieving stress. Then I come and face full time my academics. That's my own mental health strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for that insight. On a doctoral journey, you should not just focus solely on that journey. Find other things that spark up your interest, involve yourself in them. That gives you energy, gives you fulfillment, and that help you carry on with other things you are doing. I could remember during my own journey, that was the period that I delved so much into speaking, especially to youth, holding programs all across the state, collaborating with some organization just for free, because I know that practically every Saturday, at least, I have to engage in one hobby or the other, and the only hobby I have is to speak. So I do that, and that keeps the energy, and that keeps, there is this kind of energy I come out with whenever I finish imparting the young people. So find something different from the academic system that interests you, that can continue to help you spark your energy, and ensure that you don't by yourself make yourself lonely. Connect. Ensure you connect, you relate, find a way to connect with people in your university and even outside your university. Thank you very much, Professor Asim. A lot have been said about proposal, the thesis, the proposal journey. A lot have been said on supervisor students relationship. Now, let's look, because of our time, let's look at funding and
I'm sorry, Dr. Idu, there is a point that I need to emphasize because of network. I was thrown off.
Okay, Professor Maureen.
Yes, the point I really need to emphasize.
Okay, yes, 1 minute for that now.
Okay, 1 minute is that we should co-opt the power of delegation. And what do I mean by delegation? By keeping a good relationship with our colleagues at the place of work. Sometimes we can just lead with them work so that our work does not suffer. And also they will be there for us when we are not there. So delegation is also very important. Then talking about the family line, we can also do some of our responsibility toward so that we don't end up burning out because we are doing PhD. So delegation is very important. And the second I want to say is a good relationship. for our PhD to go seamless, we need to relate well with our spouse. We carry him along or her along. Let us know when we will not be there for them. So we relate that way you are able to balance up between your PhD program, your place of work, and also your family relationship. Good relationship matters too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Maureen. I was about saying that let's talk about funding as found out that in this part of the world, we don't get to explore this aspect when we are going into doctoral and to PhD journey. We tend to like, okay, I will bootstrap it. I will finance it with the help of my family or friends and like that. Now, I think these are areas that we want to begin to also look into so that we also can find a way also to leverage those opportunities that are out there. So I will want our esteemed professors to provide insight into this for us. How possible can we identify and secure funding or scholarships? Professor Asim, we like to start with you. How possible? How can we identify scholarship or funding, and can we secure them for the doctoral journey? Professor Asim.
In terms of
Okay.
if you're a staff already, you have opportunity to get TED fund grant for training. Though now they don't sponsor anybody outside the country because of certain regulations. But you can get TED fund grants for training within the country. Another thing is there are many scholarship opportunities. All you need to do may just be to go online and browse and find out in your own area of specialization the opportunities available for you. And you see if you're qualified, because there are preconditions for application. It's not open to everybody. It may be by age, it may be by area of specialization, it may be by even area of study. So you go online, these opportunities are there. You're just browsing and checking. And sometimes, if you go to something like NGO grants, you may discover some non-governmental organizations that give grants for studies. So that's the beauty about the internet. Everything is up there, but I cannot pinpoint for now, but I know because I've seen for grants from NGO. If you browse that, you can find certain things that may help you. And then TED fund for those people that are within the university, but not for studies outside the country. And recently, they are picking some universities. I think they have highlighted some universities within the country where TED fund is willing to sponsor people into. I think 18 universities or so. So if your program is within that university, TED fund can sponsor, but TED fund would not sponsor you. Like if you are University of Calabar, TED fund will not sponsor you to be trained in University of Calabar, but TED fund can sponsor you to be trained in, say, ABU or UNIBEN, if that program is there. But they will not sponsor you to avoid inbreeding. They won't sponsor you. They are not going to sponsor you to study within your university. That's the bit I can say for now. Thank you. I hope the moderator is still in the house.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Yes.
I'm still in the house.
Let me say.
Okay, ma. Go ahead, Prof.
Yes, concerning yes, thank you very much. Concerning funding and scholarship, like Prof have said, there are so many opportunities. All you need to do is just go online. There are funding and scholarship, government agency are doing that, universities, especially oversee universities, some research institutes are into that. There's another one, DAAD in Germany, Fulbright in USA. I'm saying that because of my experience in that. But the one I've actually benefited from is this Coimbra scholarship. And I'll pick one or two things just to enlighten the PhD students that are interested in scholarship. Like we have rightly said, and professor have also said, there are so many of them. But one very important thing is that you need to exercise patience. Very, very important. Because I discovered that so many students that have been encouraged that they should look at this scholarship and apply for it, they lack that patience. They don't want to be patient enough to go through the rigor that are involved in scholarship. And also another very important thing I need to emphasize is you need to align your research interests with global priorities. Yes, very important. Your research have to be aligned with global priorities. You need to focus on an area because no funder will want to sponsor any research that doesn't solve any real problem. Now, the current problem is climate change, public health, digital innovations. That's just the current problem. So you need to align your research interest to these vital areas. Like I said, funders, they are interested in research that will solve real problems. So if your research interest is not solving any problem, just forget about it. You are wasting your time. So another thing that have helped me is, like Prof have said, once you go online, you are able to identify maybe a university or a funding agent. You need to know much about that agent or the funding institution. You need to browse, find out a lot about them, and also go to the supervisor's domain and try and pick out supervisors that are aligned with your research interests. Very important, because if you are able to get a supervisor, a foreign supervisor that the research interest is aligned with your own interest, it makes the work easier for you. Because once you are able to do that, you need to take time and write to these supervisors. Let them know your research interests. Let them know that your research interest is in alignment with what they are doing, and that you are also interested to be mentored by them. And by so doing, they will give their approval, and that will help the organization now to be able to sponsor you. Because if you're able to get a supervisor that is willing to supervise your work, you are one step ahead. And another, I want to add this. There are many funding calls, and they usually have short deadlines. So if you are interested in this scholarship, you need to prepare all your documents. Your CV should be up to date, your personal statement, your research proposal. You should have several research proposals so that you know which one to submit when there is a call. All these things have to be in place because their deadline is always very short. Before you know it, the deadline is over. So you need to prepare yourself in this aspect. So funding is very important, especially for PhD program. And when you decide to fund your program, you discover that most of the time it's an Herculean tax. You spend so much years because, especially for us that are in science, because of fund, instead of spending 3 or 4 years, you find yourself spending 6 or 7 years because of financial constraint. So that is why for us, searching for scholarship is very important. And I must not forget to say this. One thing is that if you are actually searching for scholarship, you should never be discouraged. What do I mean? I have applied severally, and they will keep on the email, I'm sorry because of this and because of that. I cannot even count how many failures that I have had. But I told myself one thing: I will never give up. I'll keep on trying. So that should be the mindset of every PhD student that is searching for scholarship. You should make up your mind not to give up, because to get a good scholarship, it takes a lot of pain. and a lot of perseverance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, Professor Asim and Professor Maureen. Thank you for this insight you have shared into it. I could remember when I was applying for TWAS, one of my professors made me to understand that, like Professor Maureen said, when you can get an institute over there that is ready to receive you and ready to accept you for your research, you are like, you have already gotten the TWAS fellowship. And one of my, and most of these scholarships, we should understand that they come at certain period of the year. So like Professor Maureen said, prepare ahead of those periods so that when they come, you can begin to do your application as early as possible so that you follow through the process and you don't do them in hurry, and always understand that there are many people also applying just like you, and the selection has to be made. So you have to be patient, and from everyone you did, learn what to improve on for the next one. So thank you very much to the panelists. Now we want to get to the audience. Because of our time, we are going straight to the audience. Now, if you have a question among the audience, please, you can put that in the comment section, or you raise your hand, then I will call on you to ask your question. And we have a few questions here from that was submitted during the course of our promotion for this program. So I'll be starting with the submitted question. Thank you for everyone that have submitted their question along the line. Thank you. It's a thoughtful step that you have taken, and some of those submitted questions have been addressed. So I will just look for those that might need some more clarification out of the submitted question while waiting for questions from the audience. Either submit in the chat or raise your hand and speak. Okay, I have AM, and I would like this to go to Professor Maureen. Said, I often struggle with knowing when my research idea is good enough to develop into a proposal. How do I know when to stop refining and start writing? Please, Professor Maureen, in 1 minute, please, can you help us attend to that?
Okay.
Banjo, I'll be coming to you next. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Concerning preparing your proposal and topic refinement, in fact, like I always advise my students, it's always ongoing. It's always ongoing. First of all, you need to refine your proposal, because as you are writing your proposal, ideas will be coming to you. Ideas that were not there before. God will just put it into your heart, and you discover that you need to add that. And even apart from you refining it, you also need to share with others, especially your supervisors, colleagues, co-PhD students. Just share your proposal with them while you are still developing them, so that they also will have their own input, their own feedback. So there is no definite time to actually conclude on topic refinement. It keeps on going. Even when eventually you start your bench work, you discover that, from my experience, I discovered that some of my students and students of other supervisors, even after their proposal have been approved, one way or the other, there is a need for refinement, and they will need to come back to do that. So it's usually ongoing. Refinement is usually ongoing, because you need feedbacks, you need contributions, more ideas will be coming to you. And once that idea comes to you, you need to upload that and add that to your proposal. That gives you a very rich and robust proposal. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Maureen. Professor, asking a quick one from the submitted question. Why I want to ask this is because of some of the things you have mentioned. This person said, how do one manage the emotional toll of slow progress, especially when others around you seem to be moving faster. Professor Asim.
Thank you so much. So for the students, this is something you went to do. You're not in competition with anybody except yourself. We are doing different things. We know where we are going. We want to know how we'll end there. So there's no point comparing yourself. Others are doing fast. You don't know what they're doing. And in this time of AI that is so smart but incredibly stupid, people can do all things and put them together. And in the end, it doesn't amount to anything. So if you know what you're doing and you have proper guidance and you know the direction that you're going and you know where you want to end, you don't need to worry yourself about this person came last week, has finished this week. No, be focused, like we said. Be determined. You know where you're going. You know what you're doing. Somebody may come and do a survey and just use descriptives and says, this is what we saw in the sample, this, and writes up. And then another person is running an experimental study that will take time, that will take control of so many variables, that need so many things. Please, the bottom line is there's no competition. You will finish when you will finish, but you should be thorough under the guidance of a supervisor or supervisors and know where you are going. That's my candid advice. We are not in competition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You are not in competition. Thank you. Now I want to move to the audience that are live. Now the first person that raised up the hand is Banjo. Please, Banjo, in 30 seconds, ask your question.
Thank you so much, sir. This question is directed to the profs because of their experience. I want to ask, how do you handle postgraduate PhD students that goes on and off? They come, you do the work to an extent, then all of a sudden they disappear. Then after some time, they resurface again. After you do to an extent, they disappear again. And you know what it takes? Even you as a supervisor, it's a trauma for you that students is coming on and off, and they keep on giving you different excuses for being present and absent for a long time. From experience as professors, how do you handle such students? Thank you.
So Professor Maureen, since Professor Alice was the last. Okay, Professor Alice, you can talk.
I wanted to allow Professor Maureen to speak. Please let me give her that opportunity to speak, but brief.
Professor Maureen.
Okay, thank you very
Professor Maureen,
much.
you have just 45 seconds.
Yes. Oh, in fact, when he was mentioning that, I remember we once had a student like that, and it took him 8 years to conclude this program. So what helped us to actually manage him is that I learned that from the supervisor. First of all, you need to take time and find out why the students have that habit or character. You never can tell. Maybe he had a health challenge, he had a family problem, and like I said, family supersedes whatever program you are running. So if the issue is a family problem, you need to allow him to sort himself out, sort his family out, because that's very important. Because if his family is not there for him, then who is there to encourage him in his PhD? So all those matters need to be resolved. And very importantly, what other thing that we need to find out from the student is that is the student having a challenge that he cannot actually confide in someone. So that's where the supervisor comes in. A supervisor should be a hands-on listening supervisor, not just you are there because of the PhD, but be there for the student. You have to give the student a listening ear. So these are some of the things that helped us to be able to manage that student. He gave him a listening ear, so he was able to pour out all the things that he's passing through. And with with the advice we gave him, he was able to pull through his PhD. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that these students, they have potential, but at the same time, we need to encourage them. if you don't encourage them, you might end up triggering a withdrawal and the student will never come back. So try and and see how you can play and encourage them to conclude the program.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Professor Alice.
Okay, I like that. I like it that Professor Maureen spoke first. You see, when you come into a program in my institution, you have specified time frame. If you have a medical condition, you can get a letter from a doctor and get it certified by the chief medical director within the university about what your medical condition is. And then the university can handle that and know how to do. But for students, they are coming at their convenience and disappear. You supervise 4 months, you don't see them, they come with stories and this. And eventually some of them don't ever come back. This is what the first thing, when they had gone for that long and they surface, the first thing I tell them, that's the practice in my university, go to postgraduate school and find out whether you are still a student. Because you can come here and we are doing behind, you are thinking you are a student, but you have ceased to be a student by postgraduate college regulation. And we may end up, two of us, having pity on you, you going and coming at will, only to discover at the end that you have overstayed. You were supposed to have finished a certain time. At point number 2, they need to also know that if you disappear for such a long period, irrespective of what the situation is, without letting anybody know, and then there's room for deferment of study or suspension. If you have already paid your fees, you can suspend for whatever reason and then come back. But if you just go like the army people will say on a wall, and then you think you can come back, you should know that you are going to pay fees for all those years that you disappeared. By the time the fees are totaled, you discover that it may be better for you to go and buy a new admission form and then reapply. So the choice is yours. Because some students, you know, because of, like you're saying, sympathy, have mercy upon them. They may be sick. They may not have money. Whatever is your problem, your supervisor is your first point of contact. You can open up and then you'll be properly advised. But just to sneak in and sneak out, and then you think you're helping that person, only to discover that you open up supervision and get to a point, gets to defense, and they say, sorry, this person ceased being a student 3 years ago. You discover that he has wasted time, he has wasted money, and the emotional trauma may be far beyond what we wanted to do by keeping quiet and helping. I think students should not just be allowed to come and go at their will without proper documentation. It will protect the supervisor first and foremost, and then the name of the university, because you know sometimes students carry news and they say this university, you know when you go, you don't know when you graduate, without saying certain things about their own character and what has kept them too long in school. So it's good for everything to be documented so they know from the beginning that you are free to suspend study. If you're sick, you go, but do it officially so that anytime you come back, you're welcome. And then you can continue so that it doesn't become hide and seek. In the end, either the supervisor will have a bad name, and then that will be too bad because the story is this, it never allowed me to graduate. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Asim. So we have 3 questions in the chat room. So please, we will not be taking any further question from the chat room, and we have someone raising up the hand. Now, the first question in the chat room came before the raising up the hand. So I will first of all go to Oyetunde Adedotun. Oyetunde Adedotun said, can I depend on my supervisor for journal selection since the name would also be included? Please, Professor Asim, just in 15 seconds, help us respond.
I think it's just a mark of respect for a supervisor's name to appear on a journal article that supervisor supervised. I think it's a mark of respect. I had done it, and I think others do it, mark of respect. But to think that, yes, the supervisor can help, but to think that it is because the supervisor's name would appear. For some supervisors, they have had too many publications. It's not that one something that will make them popular. So it should not be because their name will also appear that it is their duty to source for. They can advise, but you don't make it and put that condition that after all, because their name will also appear. For me, I would not want to put my name. I don't want anybody writing anything and putting my name without my seeing what has been written or knowing or being part, because it may embarrass somebody in the end. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that answered that question. So I'm going to Ojewole Tolulope Deborah. Please unmute and ask your question in 30 seconds.
If a student happens to have a supervisor that is toxic or maybe a non-forgiving supervisor, probably there is an issue between student and supervisor. Should students continue to beg till time is going, or probably it's advised?
Okay, thank you very much. For me, I did not hear the last part of what you are saying, but I heard that you are talking about if a student has a toxic supervisor and it happened that maybe something happened between the supervisor and the student, should the student continue to beg? I don't know whether I got you. Is that?
Yes, I said, is it advisable for the student to drop the program or continue to beg or go to another institution also for the sake of time? Because, for example, if you are in academics, you need your PhD for promotion and the likes, and your supervisor is not really helping the program, and go to another institution, or I keep on begging for my sanity's sake. Thank you, sir.
Can I answer, Professor Dr. Dowu? Sorry,
yes, yes.
Even the language used by if that's a student, he said if the supervisor is toxic, does that not even show that that person has a problem? I mean, the person that is thinking the supervisor is toxic. There are two things here.
Yes,
even the scripture says two cannot work together if they don't agree. Every student has a right to ask for change of supervisor. In case you didn't know, you better know that you are entitled. If you cannot work with a supervisor, ask for a change of supervisor. And the error that many students make, they feel that if you ask for a change of supervisor, others will turn against you. It's not correct. You can ask. And also, supervisor has a right to reject a supervisee if you think you cannot flow. So it's two ways. So you don't need to run away to anywhere. You can ask. If you have differences that you cannot resolve, you can ask for a change of supervisor. But there are some students that want the supervisor to write the work for them. And if you are that type that are not willing to write for a student, sometimes you may not flow together. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Professor
Please,
Alice. I know I was about saying something. Okay,
please,
Professor Morin.
Dr. Prof. Morin, say.
What
Professor
I want to say
Morin,
is that, yes, Professor Asim, she is quite correct. Every student has the opportunity and also the right to change his or her supervisor. Same thing for the supervisor. But what I want to say here is that sometimes students will put the blame on their supervisor. But when you take time to look at it, you discover that it's just a little form of relationship that have gone sour, and just a little thing, and the challenge is resolved. So before any student will begin to demand for another supervisor, I think I will advise that students, you should let in a third party into that issue. What I mean by that is that you can take the matter to other co-supervisors or the PG coordinator, and even your confidant, your friends, let them look into the matter. It might just be a little thing that needs to be resolved. What I'm saying that is that we should try as much as we can as students to relate well with our supervisor, not just our supervisor, but with everybody. We should always remember that our temperaments are not the same. So we should learn to relate well with people, because it's a small world. So if you demand for another supervisor, you never can tell. Maybe in the future, that supervisor you rejected might be useful. And because the relationship have gone sour the first time, you discover that it becomes difficult for the two of you to relate well. So my advice to the student is that try and invite a third party to look into the matter to resolve it, because it's a small world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma. I could remember Dr. Bright mentioning this thing categorically. He said initially, partly the challenge was from his side, until when he began to relate with the friends or the colleague of the supervisor to understand the person of the supervisor, and he followed that line, and everything went in order. So we are coming from different backgrounds, and yes, there's opportunity for a student to change supervisor. But if every student keeps changing supervisor, how many who will supervise who? And one thing I want you to understand, that there is no way you and your supervisor will not have a misunderstanding. The first thing that Dr. Bright make us to understand earlier on is, the first thing first is understand who that supervisor is. So that even at the initial stage, it's just here that you go, and until you go in before you get your supervisor. If you are applying outside the country, often than not, you have your supervisor known before your application is accepted. So when you are starting out, understand the person of your supervisor. Then you can know, can I flow, can I get along with this kind of temperament, or can I not? Then from there, you can meet with the PG coordinator or the PG board in the department. Like Professor Maureen said, whatever the challenge might be, you can get ahead to PG board in the department, or meet with the PG coordinator. I don't want us to keep flogging this. We might still get back to it, but let's move on, because I want us to wrap this up quickly. We have overspent the time we have here, first partly due to network, and we have to at least work within the time. Now, the question I have on air is, the next person on the chat room is, what advice would you give to a PhD student over 50 years old who needs to earn a doctorate for career advancement but lacks funding, especially considering that most scholarships have age limits? Professor Maureen.
That's a big challenge. But one thing I know is that, like I've been discussing with some of my colleagues abroad, because of one issue or the other, he made a statement which I hid at the back of my mind. He said that abroad, you are not too old to back the program. So meaning that even though that candidate is old, and of course is already overshooting the age limit, there are still some scholarship within his age. I have come across so many scholarships without any age limit. I have seen so many, but
Yes.
it takes time. Like I said, yes, like I said initially, the candidates have to be patient to get something like that. And of course, you need somebody that have also passed through the same experience to be able to advise you so that you don't waste your time looking for a needle in the dark. So you need people that are experienced to help you. There are so many scholarships without age limit. So what are we saying? You can still apply for such scholarship, but it's not late. So I want to encourage that candidate. He can still go for his program, even if you are 60 years. If you take time, you will see a scholarship without age limit, and that qualifies you to apply. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Maureen. There are different scholarships out there. There are those with age limit, there are those without age limit. I think one key thing I want to pick out from what Professor Maureen said is you need that network of people in that area of where you are looking for. There's a philosophy that I now live by. If I don't know how, then I look out for who. That means who might have walked through that path, who might have done it, or who knows who has done it. So I think that's the route you might want to follow. And the next question is directed, I think, to one of our esteemed profs. Said, Ma, can you throw more light on qualitative and quantitative research? Professor Azim, Ma, can you help us in a brief way throw more light on qualitative and quantitative research?
Well, they are in the social sciences. Basically, you can divide every type of research you can do into two arms, either qualitative research or quantitative. Quantitative research, you are talking about where you collect data, information in terms of number, and then be able to start from, say, the sample that you have worked with, and then try using descriptive statistics like mean, standard deviation, so on and so forth, and then be able to infer to a larger population. You want to know what's happening, what is prevailing difficulty among 5-year-old nursery school children when it comes to learning maths, for example. You cannot go around the whole country or town. You just pick parts of those type of people in a certain place or state or town and decide to study them, on the basis of which you can now generalize to the whole population of 5-year-olds in nursery schools in, say, Nigeria. When you come to quality, there you are talking about numbers and using every means that you can use to collect that type of data and analyzing and talking either in tables or graphs. When you come to qualitative is basically about talking about you collect data through observation, through interview, through different qualitative techniques that deal with words, that deal with characterizations, not necessarily numbers, though you can change these characterizations in terms of themes and so on into numbers. So say 5 persons said this, 15 looked at Ebola as this type of problem, so on and so forth. But these are different paradigms, and that type of lecture is a full lecture. I don't know if I've been able to scratch it somewhere for the person who questioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For me, you have given the foundation of the explanation, and it's a full lecture, like you said, Ma. So let's move on to the next person on the chat room. I think after this, we have one person, one question to attend to. He said, I have been exploring the synergy. This is Uzo Eni. I have been exploring the synergy between AI research and writing. What is the thin line between AI and originality? How do you include the perspective that AI bring to the table without compromising the quality of research. That line that shouldn't be crossed. I don't know if this generation of Nigerian students can match the generation of the panelists in terms of quality of work and originality. It feels like we have lost them, and research is no longer valued like their time. They make this journey feel academic and extremely valuable. Yes, more accolades to our panelists. And when it's come to AI, let me just chip into you ask a question, and to a certain degree, you give answer to the question. When it's come to AI is a tool. Whether we like it or not, AI has come to stay. It's just like the era of when calculator came into mathematical system. So that is AI. For me, and what I so much believe is, keep eating back at it in academia will not solve the problem. For me, I think this is the right time, early enough, to begin to fine-tune how individual academics can explore AI literacy and how we can help our students to explore AI literacy. As an academics, you have to become a strategist when it's come to AI. That is the view that I share. There's little you can do that you say you want to stop students from using AI. There's little you can do. Even as I'm talking to you, those tools initially that have a way of detecting AI generated content, they are struggling now to do so. So where are we? So I think the best way is the originality and the genuinity of the researcher. The originality, authenticity, and integrity of your work depends on you. If you are original, if you are authentic, if you have integrity, your work will be original, your work will have also integrity. But if we also always focus on student do this, student do that, student do not that, cannot, for me, this is my opinion, you cannot give what you don't have. In a system that a student does not know what to use AI for and not what to use AI for, crucify such student for using AI for what you felt you should not use it for, to me, it is not the better way to go. That is why I said academia. In academia, we have to move fast into this and develop how to explore AI literacy. And for those our profs that have gone ahead of us, see, some of my students will tell me that they can't be like me, because that means they want to hang themselves. That is how we also look at the professors that are speaking today. One thing I want you to understand, that times are changing, and we have to find a way to adapt the tools that we have. And the best way that I've understood to adapt is via learning. Via learning. When supervisor, my students know they don't bring any high generated content to me without them owning it. That is one thing they are sure of. And even in the presentation, when they are telling other students, this is generated by AI, this is generated by AI, you actually point to my students that this is generated by AI, because the work you are doing, me myself, I've sat down with it, with different three AI, and see what they can give on it. So when I'm saying it, I know the language of this AI is how well you familiarize yourself with it. Don't let us see students as the problem. Let's see how can we make the system adapt to the reality of the time. And then the student and the lecturers will follow suit. That is my own take on that. And because of our time, let me move to, this will be the question that will be the last one will be asking, man, I think this is directed to one of our professors. How can I strike balance when I'm assigned with two supervisors? One and the other is doctor. Professor Maureen.
Yes, I hope you don't mind. My line is cutting. Can you please repeat that question, please?
Okay, your line is breaking.
Yes.
How can I strike balance when I'm assigned with two supervisors? Which one of the supervisors is a professor and the other is a doctor?
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, there is no big deal about, yes, there is no big deal about that question. As a PhD student, doctor or professor, you work closer with any of the two that is familiar with your work. I mean, your research interest, find out from these two supervisors which area of specialization, because out of the two, one will be better off. Because like Prof have said at the beginning, it's your work. It's your work. So out of the two supervisors, number one, work closer with the supervisor whose area of interest is matches what you are doing. And also choose a supervisor that is a hands-on listening supervisor that will be there for you to listen to you and to actually guide you. Because all supervisors, none of them are the same. So you know their temperament, and whether it's a professor or a doctor, it doesn't matter in this aspect. But what really matters is that, of course, I know that the professor will be the major supervisor while the doctor is the co-supervisor. But at the end of the day, please work with them according to their area of interest so that your work will not suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay. Just to add to what Prof has said, just like my case, I had two supervisors. One was a professor, one was a doctor. But the issue was that the co-supervisor realized that the first supervisor, which is my major supervisor, was the one that was actually, a dawn in my own field. So, but one thing I never did was that if I finish with my supervisor, I go back to my co. So I work with both of them, because if you sideline any of them, it will be at your own peril. So none of them is greater than any person. The academic line is a very funny line that if you ignore anyone, they are waiting for you on the D-Day to tell you how powerful they also are. So I think when you weigh their area of specialization, you find out that one is more, maybe more closer to your specialization than the other. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome, Dr.
Can I say, sorry, can I say something in
yes,
response to?
Go ahead.
Please, incidentally, I'm a very senior person in my field, and I have supervised, if not up to 40 or 40 something, should be up to 40 persons. As what I do, I take supervision of students as part of mentoring for the ones that are coming after me. And so I do not do sole proprietorship when it comes to supervision. Another thing that I don't do, I don't give students topic. I don't think it's right. They should have an area of interest. Area of interest is not the same as topic. If you have an area of interest, I can help you pattern out something that looks like, but like Professor Maureen said, you don't have a topic. That's what my supervisor used to say, until your work is on the shelf in the library. So at any point in time, they can keep modifying until something comes out very beautiful. So all along, if I have co-supervisor, I work with them so they know what we are doing. And of course, in my field, you cannot go and bring somebody in guidance and counseling to come and co-supervise with me in my area. So we are in the same area, but we just differ in terms of ranking. So I take that and we take that, that's the practice, as mentorship for others. So we go along together so they know what we are doing together, and they are also learning, the others are learning, so we don't run into issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you very much. And I have in the comments a comment from Van Joy. It says students should also learn to relate with other supervisors to understand the supervisor better. Never work alone. Dr. Bright, because this question is for you, that's why we are taking it before we move to the round of segment. He said, in line with design a roadmap, what are the major items to formulate a good roadmap? Please, in just 1 minute. Dr. Bright.
Okay, thank you very much for the question. So when I said the roadmap, if you've already had a title for your, for the thesis, all you needed to not do is to not bring out an outline of what that particular thesis will entail. So when you have an outline already, what you not do, the roadmap is not that, oh, chapter 1, these are the subunits that are under chapter 1. So this one will come first before the other one, before the others. And again, as they are coming before the other, they must flow through. No one should just be independent of his own in terms of information. But as you read from the beginning, it will be flowing down in that order. So that's what I mean by that roadmap. That roadmap shows you that, let's assume under chapter 1 now, you have an introduction, the background. That background is a small unit in that introduction. So you write the background of your work, whatever the work is talking about, you just put the background there. Later, you now tend to also bring out the statement, the problem statement. You bring it out what the work is trying to also solve. That's another smaller unit again in that same chapter 1. Chapter 1 is an item on the roadmap. Then you go further, the objectives are also there, well spelled out. While some person will be having aims and objectives, while some people will be having the main objective or broader objective, some person will also go further to now have further research questions that will also lead to these objectives. So all of these smaller units are the ones that are under the chapter that are also embodied inside the roadmap. Because if you just come and just say, okay, I will just begin to write what is this, what is that, the task, no, the work will not come out beautifully well like that. That's why I said the roadmap. But the roadmap has smaller units in each of the chapters. Because you already know that your thesis might have 5 chapters. Chapter 1, you already know what it entails. But don't just start writing like that. It's this breakdown of this smaller unit that will make your work very beautiful. And anywhere you feel it's not flowing, as you read that it's not flowing down, you find out that something is missing. There is a gap there. So you now go back again, get more information, get more literature, and also find a way to fine-tune it so that it will flow down. So if there are no roadmap, this roadmap gives you a guide and a direction from the beginning to the end. So it's just a guide. So, but your outline will be the one that will not give you all the items that will be under the different chapters in this roadmap before you get to chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and 5. Like as I've said in chapter 1, chapter 2 as well, which is the literature review, talks about your concept, maybe the definition of terms. The concepts are there, the conceptual framework, the methodological framework, the analytical framework, the theoretical framework. So these are all different subunits that make up that chapter 2. This chapter 2 now is also another item again on the roadmap that you're going to follow. But you not just start writing the chapter 2 like that now. You start from there. Oh, what are the terms? You define them. What is the concept that is making the concept that you have built on this work that you feel will also give a guide to this work? You build the concept, you design it. Whether there are some you needed to draw system, diagrammatically, there are some you just needed to also write, but it must flow. You're writing as you read through. They must flow down so that information, as your supervisor is going through, he will be interested and wanting to also get to know what is in the next, the next paragraph. So, but in all, a roadmap is just a broader view of everything that is entailed in your outline, and please break it down to smaller units so you don't get bored when you are writing. The smaller they are, the better the information that will come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bright. I saw something of this roadmap somewhere. I will search if I can still get it and put it in the utilization lab WhatsApp group for us to use it as a guide on how to design this roadmap. I also have in the comment section As a PhD student, can your supervisor choose a topic for you? Professor Azim has said something about that. You still have, he said, for her, she doesn't do that. For me, I don't do that. But you have to still get back to your supervisor, because your supervisor, I might say I don't do that. What if your supervisor is doing that? And we have a question here which we might not be getting into. It's talking about coercive experimental research, and the AI tool should be used. How can these two be reference put in ethics? We have done a lot on that in some of our sessions on how to use AI and how you can reference them. We get back to that later. And Utman Oyetundi is thanking Professor that responded to the question. Thank you very much for this. And I want to thank all our panelists. As we are rounding up, we are getting into the rapid fire advice round. And what will be happening here is each panelist will respond to just one of these prompts quickly and from their heart. So I will call the name of the panelist that I want to respond to a prompt, and the panelists have just 30 seconds to do so. So now I will first go with Professor Asim. Professor Asim, one habit every PhD student should develop.
Habit of reading and investigation.
Habit of reading and investigation. Thank you very much, Ma. Professor Maureen, one book or resource that changed your research journey.
Yes, just like I said, there are several books in sciences that are very useful to me, but the major book that actually changed my perspective in research is the Bible. In the Bible, you get so many information on how to do your work and how to also manage your emotions, especially when you are heading towards a burnout. So the Bible is a major out of all the several sciences and journals that I came across. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Dr. Bright, what stress relief hack you used during your PhD program?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Just to make it very brief, the doctoral journey, one thing I just believe is that because I know it is not a straight line graph, what I use was that I break big tasks into very tiny tasks. That was how I was able to manage my stress, and that really helped me a lot, because the tasks are very big, but I have a way of breaking them down into smaller units. Because I know it's not a straight line graph, you don't always go as you plan. So, but with this, I was able to, achieve my goals within the shortest possible time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Professor Maureen, what makes an excellent supervisor or research mentor? I mean, did I say Professor Maureen? I'm Professor Alice.
Yes, thank you very much for.
Okay, thank you. What makes an excellent, I think, for me, respect.
Respect. Go ahead, ma'am.
No, you should know that even if you're from the same clan, one person is above the other. So that respect should be there. Number 2, openness. Don't be very frank with your supervisor. Don't try to play hide and seek. Openness, friendship, and above all, willingness to serve. Don't just think that I came to be supervised, that's all. Cannot, even if he has a need, you cannot help in any way, not financial need or any whatever. Sometimes a supervisor also has need, like my own will say, I need to write on this, get me materials. I do that. And we should understand that, please. That's my advice. Respect, openness, friendship, and willingness to serve.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Professor Asim, thank you for your actionable.
Yes, thank you. What makes an excellent supervisor is a supervisor that is an hands-on listening supervisor. What do I mean by that? The supervisor should exercise patience with the candidate, supervisor should give the student a listening ear and should always be available, not a distant supervisor, but a hands-on supervisor that is accessible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man. Thank you, Professor Asim, for your actionable insights and impactful contribution. Thank you, Professor Maureen. We appreciate you for your practicability and mind-shifting perceptions. And Dr. Bright, your words today, I must confess, your words and contribution today are life-saving. Thank you so much. And as we come to the end of this powerful session, I want to once again thank our panelists for showing up with not just knowledge, but courage, vulnerability, and depth. You have given tips today. You have shared with us your truth. Thank you very much. We truly and really appreciate you. And to our audience, thank you for showing up. I hope you leave not just informed, like we said from the beginning, but you are inspired, equipped, and empowered. But before you go, there are a few key takeaways from me. One, PhD is not just a project. It's a personal transformation. Two, burnout is real, but so is support. And if you want to put care. Also, excellence in academia begins with inspiration and ends with impact. And last but not the least, understand that you don't have to walk the journey alone. Be open-minded. Be open-minded. So that is it pretty much for today. And for the gift, I promise, get your free copy of the PDF resource via the link that is displayed in the chat room for us, and also join our upcoming AI Academia weekend that happens quarterly. And the next one will be focusing on the academia future of work mastermind. That is, you must have seen the flyer. That's the link also to register. If you have registered for this program, that means you have registered via that link. And also, this session replay will be uploaded to the Academia Cafe YouTube channel. That is the link also to our official YouTube channel. And also, you can check the chat now for the link. We'll be posting the chat, this link in the chat room now, so that we can have access to it. And at the same time, you can also screenshot it now. You can screenshot it. Okay, the link is posted in the room. My assistants are supposed to be here. The network does not allow her to be here. So I've put the link in the in the chat room now. So I promise us that there will be a bonus opportunity, and someone asked initially that how can you become a member of Academia Cafe Airlight? See, before we go into this, let's go through a bit of announcement before I talk about what we have on the screen. Now, our next edition of Publish and Prosper, we have already started working on that, and we want your input. If you are on this call, we want your input. We want you to send to us the topic that you think we should explore in the next edition. DM us on this same WhatsApp number that you've seen on the screen. Send the message, the topic you want us to explore, to this WhatsApp number, and we will look into how to integrate all the topic we receive and see how to do due diligence to them in the next episode of Publish and Prosper. And before we draw the curtain, I have something big for you, like I said in the promotion message, and it's a bonus offer. Now, if you can see on the screen, you'll see that we have two flyers. These are parts of our past sessions. The combo for these two goes for the replay. You have access to the replay for ethical AI research workflow at 30,000 naira, for generative responsive generative AI for researcher at 20,000 naira. Now, AI is the thing. Ethical AI research workflows has 3 powerful sessions and 9 complementary resource materials in PDFs and videos to ensure your mastery and implementation without needing us. So with this, you are sure to master how to multiply your productivity with AI as a researcher without compromising ethical standards, and future-proof your career. And with responsible generative AI for researcher, this has 2 impactful sessions and 3 complementary PDF resource materials. This basically is hands-on real-time practical session on how to harness generative AI for research excellence and career advancement. You don't need any tech skills. Everything here in this session is broken down for you bit by bit and step by step. Today price for the 2 training combined is 50,000 naira. However, okay, this is the sample of the certificate that you will also get access to. And after the certificate is from Natural Essence International, a CAC registered company and certified organization recognized for equipping professionals with in-demand skills and globally respected credentials. And as bonus offer for you for participating in today's conversation, if you made your payment before 12 p.m. May 28th, wow, that day is my birthday. Wow, you will get the entire combo for just a fraction of 15,000 naira and free membership access to Academia Cafe Airlights community. Please, once you made your payment, make sure you forward your proof of payment, full name, and Gmail address to the WhatsApp number on the screen, 080-8954-7037. Thank you all for your participation. That is a wrap for today. And until next time, keep publishing, keep prospering, and keep winning. And don't forget to screenshot this and join us at Cafe Elite community. This is powered by that community and a lot of better activity that can help your research work. And not only that, and help you to build scalable impacts. That is what that community is all about. So thank you for being here. Once again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you all our audience. And thank you for everyone that sent in their question. Thank you for the comments in the comment section. We have, please send all this in the platform so that we can understand better. Yes, we are going to do that. Justina said, thank you, Dr. Ido and your team. I really appreciate. Please send all this. We are going to do that. Malam Raji also say, thank you, profs, doctor, the panelists. We are very much grateful. Thank you to everyone in this call. And this is it for today on Publish and Prosper. We talk bold insight. Until next time, keep winning.